Hi, welcome to the Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today we will be talking about, well, actually, two things, as I mentioned in the title. The first thing is what happened on Sunday. Four countries, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Portugal, recognized a Palestinian state. Now, they are not, they're the, other countries have done this, but they are the major countries. I believe Spain did it some time ago, and some smaller countries. But so this is kind of big. And since then, or scheduled for today, the day I'm recording this, which is Monday, you're seeing it on Tuesday, France is going to follow suit, and some other countries. I don't remember all of them, but it seems to have or be picking up momentum. So, as I say in the title, I have some good news and bad news about that, and an amazing fact that is going to really surprise a lot of people. It shouldn't surprise certain people who have a knowledge of history, but for those of you who don't, which is most people from what I can see, at least Middle East history or Israel history, Palestinian history. Well, it's an amazing fact. But we'll start with the news first. And as I say, it's good news and that I have good news and I have bad news. Ironically, well, not ironically, I guess that'll fit. It's the same news. So what I'm going to do right now is turn the floor over to Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, to give you that news.
יש לי מסר ברור לאותם מנהיגים שמכירים במדינה פלסטינית לאחר הטבח הנורא ב7 באוקטובר. אתם מעניקים פרס עצום לטרור. ויש לי מסר נוסף עבורכם. זה לא יהיה. לא תקום מדינה פלסטינית ממערב לירדן. במשך שנים אני מנעתי את הקמתה של מדינת טרור זו מול לחצים אדירים, גם מבית וגם מן החוץ. עשינו זאת בנחישות ועשינו זאת בתבונה מדינית. לא כל שכן. הכפלנו את ההתיישבות היהודית ביהודה ושומרון ונמשיך בדרך זו. המענה לניסיון האחרון לכפות עלינו מדינת טרור בלב ארצנו, המענה הזה יינתן לאחר שובים מארצות הברית.
As you just heard, Benjamin Netanyahu just announced that there will never be a Palestinian state. That is the news, and it's good news and bad news. It's good news for Israel, and it's bad news for those who hate Israel, and especially the Palestinians who, well, for people, especially the Palestinians who hate Israel and hate Jews. Well, bad news for you, and bad news for all these countries that are recognizing, that will and that have recognized a Palestinian state. Ain't going to happen. And it had the opposite effect of what they were. Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of Israel, was the most idiotic statement. And by the way, a lot of these people, like Macron of France and Starmer of Israel, their ratings are in the toilet. I mean, they are way down. Keir Starmer's party is going to get slaughtered in the next election. The Reform Party will probably be which is a brand new party, and it looks like they will become the majority party. And it's just a short time. That's how bad he's been. Macron is in real trouble. His ratings are really low. The left in France, they're fighting desperately to keep the right out of power, and it's only a matter of time before the right wins. Same thing in Germany, which has not recognized a Palestinian state, to their credit. And actually, I'll throw in another little tidbit about Australia, because they have a very liberal. I think he's not doing so well either. Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, and the opposition party, leader of the opposition party, or somebody in the opposition party, said that if his party wins, that Australia will reverse the recognition of a Palestinian state. But the whole idea of this, the Oslo Accords were supposed to settle all this, and the Oslo Accords said that stupidly, in my opinion, it allowed the Yasser Arafat in back into Judea and Samaria, and to form the Palestinian Authority. They were supposed to, that was the idea, he would come back and fight terrorism, and that a solution would be, an agreement would be negotiated between a comprehensive one-time agreement that would settle all the issues, would be negotiated between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, which would include the status of, what there is no mention of a state. It's just that was all to be discussed. The Palestinians have had several offers. They have never made a counter offer. Just continue with the same demands that they've always started with, which return to the 1967 borders, what Israel calls the Auschwitz borders, indefensible borders, 1967, which is an armistice line. There was never a settled border, and also that a right of return of refugees, which they are calling the Palestinians right of return to Israel, and they are including generations of descendants of refugees. So that's that's not going to happen. And they want half of Jerusalem. They want the eastern portion of Jerusalem as their capital. That they have never come down from those demands. They have been waiting for the international community to pressure the Israelis into giving the Palestinians everything they want, which is basically a platform for terrorism, to do what is happening now in Gaza, was what happened from Gaza on October 7th. So, as I said, ain't going to happen. They're having the opposite effect now. They went too far because the Oslo, as somebody said, if these international community can act unilaterally, then so can Israel. And so now they're talking about just annexing the whole thing. Israel just taking all of Judea and Samaria back. That's an important point. Taking it back. That Jews are the indigenous population, actually between the Mediterranean and the Jordan and beyond. Part of what is now Jordan used to be the kingdom of Judah, which was the southern portion, and then there was a tiny Israel, was another Jewish kingdom on the top. And if you go far enough back, it was all just Judah. It was one kingdom. If you're into trivia, what happened was the Judah king died, and they could not agree on who would be the next king. So there was an amicable split, and the northern part split off, and they had their king, and then Judah had their king. Anyways, as you just heard, there will not be a Palestinian state, and that is good news and is bad news, depending on which side of the agreement of the issue you sit. But now for the amazing fact, and this was actually, George Galloway was a former, I believe he was he was once mayor of London, and he was also, I believe, a member of Parliament. Anyways, British politician, hates Israel. I can't say whether he's anti-Semitic or not. I'd have to go back and do research, but it would not surprise me. But he wanted to refute the idea that, the fact that there has never been a sovereign country called Palestine. And the way he wanted to refute that was he put up the thumbnail that I showed at the beginning of in the thumbnail to this vlog. Let me just put it up again. What you're looking at is the 1939 Palestinian soccer team. And that's what Galloway was putting up to say, well, yes, there was a country called Palestine. And, well, he kind of shot himself in the foot on that one. I'm going to show you how, I guess since we're talking about soccer, an own goal. I mean, this is like just an own goal on steroids. If you hate Israel, if you're trying to prove the existence of a Palestinian state. So now I'm going to show you I'm going to show you a newsreel from British Pathé, 1939, about that soccer match. And then, let me show you that first. Here's the soccer matches, but you'll like this if you're a soccer fan, I guess.
It's the first test on the Sydney Cricket Ground. That sounds all wrong, but it's true. For this year, Palestine has sent a touring soccer team down under, and the famous Sydney Ground is the home of both the summer and the winter games. Australia in the dark jerseys, with the numbers on their backs, and right away at the start they smash forward to the attack around the Palestine goal. Australia centres, and as the ball zigzags towards the goal, we take you over to the voice of Australia.
Wham! Save! But then the Jews were always a saving race. Now the Palestinians charge with interest. They sweep brilliantly into the attack, and watch their brainy play now, as they exploit a series of accurate short passes that baffle a big Australian defender.
Unfortunately, the way it works when you download, as I understand it, a YouTube video, you can't get captions with it. So here is just a shot from the match. This is at the point in the match where you see when it switched to the Australian, I guess the British was the Brits or somebody was doing the broadcasting, then it switched over to the Australian, and you see the goalie go like that, save, and somebody says save, and then what comes after that is not really clear. So here is what was said. Wham, save. But then the Jews were always a saving race. The Jews were always a saving race. But I'm going to let the anti-Semitism, Jews that we all just care about money, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to let that pass this time. The important point is, let me put up that photo again of the soccer team. And this time, what you just heard, take a good look at the photo. Well, I, point out a couple of items in that photo. As you can see, those are Jewish stars on the jerseys or whatever of all, or uniforms of all of the soccer players. So that emblem, it is a Jewish star, and right above it is Hebrew writing. What does that Hebrew writing say? For those of you who can't read Hebrew, Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv. It's the Maccabee soccer team from Tel Aviv. I think they called that was the name of the team, the Maccabees. But the point I'm making, this Palestinian soccer team, everybody in that photo is a Jew. They're all Jewish, because that's what it meant before Israel was created. Palestinians, when it was under the British mandate, Palestinians meant Jews. That's what it meant. And possibly Arab residents, and Arab residents also, possibly. But the point is, that's not a country. And if you're trying to demonstrate that there was an Arab state called Palestine, well, no, in 1939, British mandate, there's the Palestinian soccer team, and they are all Jews. And I would add another, I believe, now you can, if you're British, I'm not going to look it up, you can, check me on this, but my understanding is that there was during World War II, there was a Palestinian unit or division or whatever in the British Army. Jews that would fight, fighting in the Middle East. And well, as I understand it, the British were reluctant to do that. They say, well, we could be training people to fight against us after the war. But they did it anyhow. But all the people, my understanding is that there were some Arabs in that unit, but most of them were Jews. In fact, there is an article a letter. You can search it. I'm not going to pull it up. Actually, saying exactly that. It's from 1975. A Jewish one of these people who were in the army in the British unit, I believe, and saying, well, yeah, the Palestinians, we were Jews, so why are you creating this Palestinian people? The Jews were Palestinian. I'm going to throw in one more, and this is you. I'm not going to put up the quote. I don't want to make this too long, but you can find it. You can find it. It's very simple. The original Palestine liberal PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, Arafat's organization. You can look up their charter. There were two. There was one originally, and then there was in 1964, and then it was revised in 69. I believe the 69 one says the same thing. You can check me on that, but definitely the first one. And it says, we consider Jews who were physically in the former British Mandate in Palestine during before 1948, which is when Israel became a state and declared independence. That actually, I think they declared in 47, but the War of Independence ended in 48. But he said, we consider those Jews to be Palestinians. So it's not a people in a sense. It's just an amazing fact that you can make of that what you will. But there you go, 1939 Palestinian soccer team. They were all Jews, and well, it'd be interesting. Any Israel, I welcome all comments as long as you're not blatantly anti-Semitic, well. If you hate Israel, well, make of that what you will. Put your comments in there. But I like comment, both sides. Any comments? If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back. Oh, and subscribe, of course. Subscribe. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.